morning started like any other coffee in hand. The sound of gulls outside my kitchen window. The faint hum of the old refrigerator. I opened my laptop to pay the property taxes, thinking only about beating the early bird discount deadline. But the numbers on my bank screen stopped me cold. The balance, once nearly $500,000, was now a flat line of zeros. No pending deposits, no incoming transfers. Just nothing. My pulse hammered in my ears. I clicked through the statement history page after page of withdrawals, all made in the past 48 hours. Then my eyes caught on one in particular, a massive deposit to a luxury apartment rental agency in New York City. Before I could think, my phone buzzed. A voicemail notification. I pressed play. Mom, Nathan and I are starting fresh. Don't worry, you'll understand someday. Marissa's voice was breathless, almost giddy. It's all for the best. The phone slipped in my hand. I'd raised her alone, through storms and bankruptcy and nights where dinner was just toast and tea. I'd sacrificed more than she'd ever know. And now, she'd bled me dry in less time than it took the tide to roll out. The floor creaked behind me. Caleb, my grandson, padded into the kitchen still in his pajama pants. Hair a messy halo. He glanced at the laptop screen, then at my face. His expression sharpened. What happened, I told him. Every word tasted like rust. He didn't flinch. Grandma, I think I know exactly where they are. I stared at him. He was 13, too young to carry the weight of betrayal, too young to speak with such certainty about people who should have loved him. But there was something in his tone, steady, measured, that pulled me upright. How I asked. He shrugged, almost casually. I've been watching him online for months. Nathan talks too much. In that moment, the room seemed smaller, the air thicker. My savings were gone. My daughter had vanished. But my grandson's eyes held a glint I recognized: resourcefulness. The kind that could turn the tide if handled carefully. And I decided to hear him out. Caleb slid into the chair beside me, opening his battered laptop with the ease of someone who lived half his life in front of a screen. His fingers flew over the keys, and a chat window popped up, names and avatars scrolling past faster than I could follow. This is a private forum, he explained. Nathan plays in this online group. I've been watching him for months. He likes to brag. I leaned in. The most recent thread was titled Big Score. Big Moves. Caleb clicked on it. And there he was, Nathan's username, boasting about landing a jackpot and hinting at leaving the small-town nobodies behind. My stomach clenched. He even posted a picture, Caleb said, clicking to enlarge an image. A city skyline spread across the screen brick buildings, a sliver of water, and the corner of a rusted billboard. I frowned. That could be anywhere. Not exactly. Caleb tapped the screen. See this? That's the North Washington Street Bridge in Boston. And the billboard. Only one like it left in the city. I matched it to Google Street View. He toggled to a map, zooming in until I could see the block. They're close to here. If they're renting that New York place, this is probably a stopover. Nathan's patterns haven't changed. He bounces between cities to dodge people he owes. I sat back, torn. The responsible thing was to take this to the police right now. But I'd lived long enough to know the difference between suspicion and proof. If I handed them nothing but an internet trail, Nathan could talk his way out of it, and my money would be gone for good. Caleb watched me, waiting. There was a calm in him, almost unnerving for a boy his age. What are you thinking? Grandma, he asked. That if we're going to do this, I said slowly. We're going to do it right. We'll watch. Gather everything. And when we're ready, they won't have anywhere to run. A faint smile crossed his face. Then I'll start showing you what else I've found. Caleb's searches grew sharper over the next hour. His focus unbroken. Lines of text, usernames, and transaction logs flickered past until he paused. Eyes narrowing. Here, he said, turning the screen toward me. A list of names and amounts filled the page: loans, payouts, overdue balances. One name was highlighted in red: Nathan's. The amount owed was staggering, and the note beside it was worse: final notice. Collect in person. I knew that kind of debt. Not the polite sort that came with letters and interest rates, the kind that came with fists and broken bones. Old instincts stirred. The ones I thought I'd left behind when my husband passed. Henry had been a meticulous man. A shopkeeper who thrived because he read people like open ledgers. Find their weak point, he used to tell me, and you'll know which lever to pull. Nathan's weakness was plain. He craved quick money and feared the people who gave it to him. I leaned back, thinking of the safe deposit box I hadn't touched in years. Inside were the property deeds from Henry's family, a little house in Boston, long since empty, and a letter he wrote before he died. I could still hear his voice in those words: never sell without buying your freedom. That phrase had been about real estate, but now it felt like something more. If Nathan believed he could get his hands on that property, he'd come running. And if he came running, I could choose the ground where the game would be played. I looked at Caleb. I might have something Nathan can't resist. He tilted his head. Curious. What is it? An old house? I said. And a little bit of bait. His grin spread slow and sure. Then we make sure he takes it. That afternoon, I logged into my private Facebook account and typed a post meant for a very particular audience: small inherited Boston property for sale. Cash only. Quick closing preferred. It wasn't flashy. Just enough detail to feel genuine without giving away too much. Caleb helped me choose the right photo. An old image of the house from decades ago, cropped to hide any current signs of vacancy. It didn't take long for the first bite, but it wasn't from Nathan. A stranger named Martin Delgado sent me a direct message. Ma'am, I think someone's running a scam with your property. A man named Nathan offered to sell me this exact house last week. I called Martin within minutes. His voice was tense, the kind of tone people get when they've just realized how close they came to losing everything. He explained that Nathan had approached him through a friend of a friend with a deal too good to be true. He even had a fake deed, Martin said. If you hadn't posted that, I might have gone through with it. The pieces snapped together. Nathan wasn't just after me. He was running the same con in multiple directions, probably trying to patch holes in his debts before they swallowed him whole. Would you be willing to help me set him up? I asked. There was a pause. Then, if it means he can't do this to anyone else, yes. When I hung up, Caleb was already working. He created a fake buyer profile under the name Elliot Kane, complete with a backstory, work history, and an eagerness to pay cash fast. He even set up a burner phone number to make it look real. We sent word through Martin that Elliot Kane was interested in buying, no questions asked. Quick close. Cash in hand. Within an hour, Nathan replied through Martin, Tell your guy I can meet him in Boston this week. I could almost feel the hook set in his jaw. The cafe smelled of burnt espresso and rain-soaked pavement. I sat at a corner table, my hands curled around a chipped mug as if for comfort. Caleb sat a few tables away, pretending to read a comic book. His phone angled just enough to capture the scene. Nathan arrived 5 minutes late. His jacket collar turned up and sunglasses still on despite the dim light. He spotted me, smiled that slick, insincere smile I'd seen too many times, and slid into the seat across from me. Evangeline, he said warmly, as if we were old friends. So glad you could make it. I hear you're ready to move that property fast. I let my voice tremble. It's just too much for me now. I need the cash. He leaned forward, producing a thin folder from his bag. I took the liberty of preparing the paperwork. All you have to do is sign, and I'll have the funds to you within the week. I glanced down. Fake letterhead. Vague legal language. Nothing binding except the certainty I'd lose everything if I put pen to paper. I'd like to have my attorney look. No need for that. He cut in smoothly. These deals vanish if you hesitate. And besides, you're getting more than market value here. His arrogance was almost a comfort. It made him predictable. But then he slipped, his tone shifting to something conspiratorial. Had a meeting just yesterday, he said, smirking. Nice old lady up in Maine doesn't know what she's sitting on. I'll have her papers signed before she knows it. The name he mentioned next made my blood run cold. It was Margaret Hensley, a friend of mine for over 30 years. I forced a shaky laugh. Sounds like you've been busy. Always am, he said, tapping the folder toward me, across the room. Caleb's eyes met mine for a split second. I knew the recorder had caught every word. I closed the folder gently and pushed it back toward him. Let me think about it, I said. My voice soft but certain. Nathan didn't know it yet, but the clock had just started ticking. Back at home that night, I sat at my desk with a burner phone and a short list of names Caleb had found. These weren't friendly lenders. They were men who didn't send letters. I kept my voice low and steady. The man you're looking for is in Boston. He's using the name Nathan Greer. He's running property scams. One of them involves my family. If you want him. You'll find him at the Brass Lantern Cafe tomorrow at 2. I hung up before they could ask who I was. Meanwhile, Caleb was in the dining room, uploading the cafe recording to a secure drive. He'd already cross-checked Maine's one-party consent law, making sure our evidence would hold. The file was clean, Nathan naming Margaret, bragging about his scams, and pushing me to sign fraudulent documents. Caleb filled out the online report, attaching the audio and a written statement. His tone was measured. Professional, I realized. Not for the first time. That he was far more grown than his years. By the next morning, the ripples had started. Margaret called me, her voice tight, saying 2 men in a black sedan had been circling her block but left without knocking. She didn't know about Nathan yet. I told her I'd explain soon, from Boston. Martin Delgado texted Saw. Nathan today, he looked rattled. Kept checking the street like he was expecting trouble. I could almost see the walls closing in on one side, creditors who wouldn't wait. On the other, a police file with his name stamped across the top. Caleb set his phone down. It's in motion now. We just have to watch. I nodded, my fingers drumming on the table. Nathan didn't know it yet, but every move he made was narrowing his own escape. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Marissa was still standing beside him. By the 3rd day, the tension must have reached a boiling point. Martin sent me a quick message that morning. Nathan and Marissa are fighting in public. Loud. I didn't need the details to picture it. Nathan's voice sharp as broken glass. Marissa's brittle and desperate. Later. Martin filled me in. Nathan had been cornered by 2 men in a parking lot. Words exchanged in low, dangerous tones. When they left, he turned on Marissa, accusing her of being dead weight and threatening to hand her over as collateral until he could get the cash together. That evening, my phone rang. The caller ID showed her number. I let it go to voicemail. Seconds later, she called again and again until I finally picked up. Her voice was high, almost shrill. Mom, you have to help me. They're after us. Nathan says I know exactly what Nathan says. I cut in. This isn't about the money anymore, she pleaded. They'll hurt us. Please, just wire something, anything to get us out of here. I sat very still, letting the silence stretch between us. When I finally spoke, My voice was calm. You left me with nothing. Marissa, you thought I'd just survive on thin air while you played house with a thief. Now you know what it feels like to be left with nothing. She sucked in a breath. Then her tone hardened. So, you're just going to let them? I'm going to let you live with the choices you made, I said, cutting her off again. If you want out, find a way yourself. There was a pause, the faint sound of her trying not to cry. And then the line went dead. I stared at the phone for a long time after, the weight of the conversation pressing into my chest. This wasn't the daughter I had raised, but the one she had become, someone who only called when her back was to the wall, not when she wanted to come home. Across the table, Caleb looked up from his laptop. She'll turn on him, he said quietly. It's just a matter of when. I wasn't sure if that was comfort or a warning. 2 days passed in a slow, deliberate quiet. Caleb went to school, came home, and never asked once if I'd heard from her. I busied myself with small things, laundry, pruning the hydrangeas, checking the mail twice a day, though I knew nothing important was coming. The call came just after sunrise. My phone buzzed against the nightstand, the sound pulling me from a shallow sleep. I answered without thinking, and the first thing I heard was screaming, "Mom, Mom." He's, oh God, her words tangled into sobs. I held the phone away for a moment, letting the storm pass just enough for her to form a sentence. Nathan's gone. She gasped. The police, he tried to run a deal in New York. But it went wrong. They took the car. Mom, he owes everyone. And I have nowhere to go. I have nothing. Her voice cracked on the last word. I could hear the echo of a busy street behind her, a distant siren wailing. I didn't speak. I wanted her to feel the full weight of the silence, to know that this moment, her stranded, her desperate, was born from choices she'd made long before Nathan was in handcuffs. Please, she said. The sound smaller now. You're my mother. I'm sleeping in a bus station. I haven't eaten since yesterday. Caleb's door creaked open, his bare feet soft against the hallway floor. He appeared in the doorway, hair tousled, eyes searching my face. I met his gaze, then turned my attention back to the phone. My voice was steady, almost cold. You put me here first. Marissa. Left me broke and alone. I survived. Now you will too. She made a sound, half gasp, half sob, and then the line went dead. For a long moment, I sat on the edge of the bed, phone heavy in my hand, listening to the quiet house around me. Caleb leaned on the doorframe, waiting for me to say something. Finally, I set the phone on the nightstand. She's on her own now, I said. His eyes didn't leave mine. Then we make sure it stays that way. It was 2 days before she called again. This time her voice was calmer, almost flat. The hysteria burned down to embers. I need a place to stay, she said, just for a while, until I figure things out. I told her I'd consider it, but only under certain conditions. You sign over your claim to the family house, I said. The same house you tried to mortgage without my consent. Once that's done, you can have a couch for a week and a hot meal. No more. There was a long silence on the line. You're serious, she said finally. As a heart attack. Caleb's name goes on the deed with mine. He's earned that much. Another pause. I could almost hear her weighing pride against hunger. I'll need to see the papers first. I had them drawn up by my lawyer within the hour, clear, airtight. No loopholes she could use later. When she arrived the next afternoon, she looked smaller somehow, her hair unkempt, the edge in her posture gone. Caleb sat beside me at the kitchen table, a silent witness. I slid the papers across to her. Sign each page. Initial the margins. Her eyes flicked up at me. You really don't trust me, do you? I didn't bother answering. She picked up the pen. The only sound in the room was the steady scratch of ink against paper. When it was done, I took the signed pages and handed them to Caleb. "File these with Mr. Benson tomorrow." I told him. He nodded, slipping them into a folder like they were worth more than gold. For the first time in months, I felt the shift control returning, not in a loud triumph, but in a steady, unshakable way. The house was safe, the deed secure, and Caleb's future no longer dangling over someone else's decisions. Marissa sat back, avoiding my eyes. "So, when do I move in?" I stood, gathering the signed documents. "You don't. You'll have a week here, and then you find your own place." Her lips parted like she might argue, but she said nothing. Caleb and I both knew this time. The terms were mine. The winter passed slowly, the wind off the water biting at our faces during morning walks to the post office. By spring, life had found a quieter rhythm. Caleb spent hours at the old roll-top desk in the den, running his small online business reselling refurbished electronics he'd repaired himself. I guided him through invoices, customer emails, and the kind of patience it takes to deal with difficult buyers. "You're teaching me more than school ever could," he said one afternoon, eyes bright behind the screen. I only smiled. Some lessons weren't in textbooks. One morning in late April, the postmaster handed me a thick envelope stamped U.S. Attorney's Office. I opened it at the kitchen table while Caleb watched. Inside was a formal letter. Concise and to the point, Nathan Greer had entered a plea deal, confessing to his role in a larger scam operation spanning 3 states. His statement credited an older woman and her grandson for providing the information that dismantled his network. Caleb grinned when I read it aloud. "We made it into federal records," he said. I folded the letter carefully and slid it back into the envelope. "Names in a file don't matter," I told him. "What matters is what you do with the freedom you've earned." That evening, we walked to the pier. The boards weathered smooth under our shoes. A fishing boat pulled away from the dock, its motor low and steady, the wake fanning out behind it. I rested my hand on Caleb's shoulder. "Money can vanish overnight," I said, watching the boat grow smaller against the horizon. "Integrity. That's the fortune I'm leaving you." He didn't answer, but I felt him lean into my side just enough to know he understood. The air smelled of salt and early summer. The gulls wheeling overhead like they'd never known winter at all. We stood there until the boat became a speck on the water, until the tide began to turn beneath our feet, carrying it toward open sea. Whatever came next, it would find us ready.